Poor little girl holds a necklace in the rain in front of the mansion and asks the billionaire, "This was my mother's. Do you know it?" He freezes and starts to cry. The rain hammered against the mansion windows as if it wanted to break the glass. Jonathan looked up from the book he had been pretending to read for an hour. The pages were still in the same position, but his mind was far away. The wind howled through the empty corridors, making the old doors creak. 42 years old, a huge house, and no sound but his own. This was the life he chose, or the one that was left for him. The clock in the living room showed almost midnight when something cut through the noise of the storm. Ding-dong. Jonathan stopped breathing. Who would ring the doorbell on a night like this, at this hour? He wasn't expecting anyone. He never was. Ding-dong. More insistent now. He closed the book and walked to the main door, his footsteps echoing in the empty hall. The mansion seemed even larger at night, with shadows dancing on the walls. When he opened the door, he found a small girl standing there, soaked from head to toe. Blonde hair stuck to her face, enormous blue eyes looking up at him with a mixture of fear and hope. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old. "Please." Her little voice came out trembling. "Are you Jonathan?" He nodded, still processing the scene, a child lost in the storm. How did she know his name? The girl raised one of her small, wet hands. Between her tiny fingers, she held something that made Jonathan's world stop spinning. A necklace, delicate, old, with a heart-shaped pendant that he knew better than anything in his life. "This was my mom's. Do you know it?" Jonathan froze. The air left his lungs all at once. His legs failed. He leaned against the doorframe, feeling as if someone had pulled the floor out from under his feet. The tears came without warning, welling up in his eyes and streaming down his face before he even understood what was happening. He hadn't cried in years, for so long that he had forgotten what it felt like. But there he was, a 42-year-old man crying in front of a 5-year-old girl he barely knew, because he knew that necklace. Of course he knew it. He had bought that necklace in a small shop downtown over 20 years ago. He had saved for months, working extra jobs just to get the money. It was supposed to be an 18th birthday present, for Elena's birthday. Are you crying?" the girl asked, her voice even quieter. Jonathan wiped his face, trying to compose himself, but the tears kept coming. "Sorry. He swallowed hard. "Come in, please. You'll get sick out there." She hesitated, looking at him with curiosity, but then she took a step inside, her sneakers making a wet noise on the marble floor of the hall. Jonathan closed the door and stood there for a moment, trying to breathe properly. That necklace in the hand of a little girl lost in the rain could only mean one thing. Elena. What's your name?" he managed to ask. "Chloe." "Chloe." The name came out as a whisper. "And your mother? What was your mother's name?" "Eleanor." The answer came simply, innocently. "Eleanor Morrison." Jonathan felt his knees go weak. Morrison was her maiden name. She had started using it again after... "Is she gone?" The question came out harsher than he intended. Chloe's blue eyes filled with tears. "Mommy got very sick." The doctors tried to help, but they couldn't. She held the necklace tighter. "Before she went to heaven, she gave me this and told me to come find you. She said you would take care of me." Every word was like a punch to his gut. Eleanor had died. Eleanor was dead, and he didn't even know. How long ago? When was the last time he tried to contact her? 5 years. More. And now she wasn't here anymore for him to apologize, for him to explain, for him to tell her that he never managed to forget. "I don't have anyone else." Chloe's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Daddy died before Mommy got sick. Now there's only you." Jonathan looked at the wet, lost girl in the middle of his hall, holding the necklace he had given his sister so many years ago. The necklace Elena had kept her whole life. The necklace she chose to give her daughter before she died. "Come on." He held out his hand. "Let's get you out of those wet clothes. You need to get warm." Chloe took his hand, and Jonathan felt like it was the first time he had touched another person in years. Her little hand was icy cold and small, but firm. He took her to the kitchen, grabbed towels, and found an old shirt that served as a dress for her. While Chloe changed, He heated up some soup and made hot chocolate. "Better?" he asked when she returned, wrapped in a blanket, her hair still damp but no longer dripping. She nodded and sat at the table. Jonathan placed the bowl of soup in front of her and sat on the other side. "Your mum, did she talk about me?" Chloe took a spoonful before answering. "All the time. She said she had a brother who was the best person in the world, but that you had a fight a long time ago." She looked at him with curiosity. "Why did you fight?" Jonathan felt his chest tighten. How could he explain to a 5-year-old that it wasn't really a fight, that it was pride, stubbornness, resentment built up over the years, that he let time pass until it was too late to fix it? "It was something silly," he said simply. "Grown-up stuff. Mommy always said that if anything happened to her, I had to come here, that you would protect me." Chloe stopped eating and looked at him. "Will you?" The question was simple, but it carried so much weight that Jonathan felt the tears threaten to return. Elena had trusted him. After all these years of silence, she still believed he would do the right thing, that he would take care of the most important person in her life. "Yes." The answer came out firm. "I will take care of you, Chloe. I promise." For the first time since she arrived, she smiled. It was a small, tired smile, but it was there. "Mommy said you would say that. She always said you were reliable." Reliable. The word echoed in his head. Elena thought he was reliable, even after he had disappeared from her life, even after all the years without a word. "Are you sleepy?" he asked, noticing Chloe rubbing her eyes. She nodded. Jonathan took her to one of the guest rooms on the 2nd floor. It wasn't a child's room, but it had a comfortable bed and warm blankets. Chloe snuggled under the covers, still holding the necklace. "Jonathan?" she called out when he was already at the door. "Yes?" "Mommy said you used to sing to her when she had nightmares. Could you sing for me too?" The request hit Jonathan like a lightning bolt. He remembered. He remembered little Elena running to his room after a nightmare, asking him to sing until she could fall back asleep. "It's been a long time since I've sung, Chloe." "That's okay. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow." He turned off the light and went downstairs slowly. The mansion was still silent, but it was a different silence now. There was someone else there. Someone who needed him. Jonathan went back to the living room, but he couldn't concentrate on the book. The storm outside was passing, but inside him, another storm had just begun. Eleanor was dead. His sister, his best friend, the person he loved most in life, was gone without them making peace, but she had sent Chloe to him. She had entrusted him with the most precious thing she had. He wasn't going to let her down this time. Not again. It didn't matter how much his life was going to change. It didn't matter how much he would have to learn about taking care of a child. He was going to make this work. For Elena, and for that little girl upstairs, sleeping with her mother's necklace around her neck. The storm had brought much more than just rain into his life. It had brought a second chance. Jonathan couldn't sleep. He stayed awake in the living room until the sun began to rise, staring at the window without seeing anything. His head was full of memories that had been locked away for years, and now they all came rushing back at once. Elena. She was 3 years older than him, but she was always much more than just an older sister. She was his protector, his best friend, the person who made everything easier. He remembered when he was 8 years old and came home crying because the boys at school had laughed at him because of his new glasses. Eleanor was only 11, but she marched to the school the next day and told them all off. "Nobody messes with my little brother," she had said, with her hands on her hips and that determined look she always had. "If you bother him again, you'll have to deal with me." The boys never bothered Jonathan again. She always did that. Always defended him when their parents were too hard on him, and they were hard. Jonathan's father was a serious man who believed children should be seen and not heard. His mother was the type who never showed affection, who thought hugs and kisses made children weak. But Eleanor didn't care about those rules. When Jonathan got a bad grade and his father started yelling, she would appear out of nowhere. "Dad, he's trying. Math is hard." Or, "Mum, everyone makes mistakes sometimes. He'll do better." And it always worked. Their parents had a special fondness for Elena. She was the perfect daughter, pretty, smart, polite, When she asked for something, it was hard to say no. Jonathan remembered a winter afternoon when he had the flu, feverish and nauseous. Their parents had gone out, and Elena stayed to take care of him all day. She made soup, read stories, put cold cloths on his forehead. "Don't worry, little brother. I'm here." That phrase echoed in his head to this day. Elena was always there when he needed her. The house was different when she was around, warmer, more alive. Elena had a gift for making any environment better just by being there. She sang while cleaning her room, told jokes at dinner, invented games on rainy weekends. Their parents even smiled more when Elena was around, but Jonathan also remembered the day everything changed. Elena was 21. He was 18. She came home with her eyes shining with happiness and announced she had met someone. "He's amazing," she said, sitting on the bed in his room. "He's kind, funny, treats me like I'm the most important person in the world." Jonathan was happy for her. Elena deserved to be loved like that, but their parents didn't feel the same way. Elena's boyfriend didn't have money. He didn't have an important family. He didn't have the qualifications they considered necessary for someone who wanted to marry their daughter. The fight started slowly, but got worse. His father forbade Elena from going out. His mother made snide comments about that unsuitable young man. They wanted her to date the son of one of his father's business partners, a boring, arrogant guy Elena couldn't stand. "You'll thank us later," his mother would say. "Love doesn't pay the bills." But Elena was stubborn. The more their parents pushed, the more she rebelled. She snuck out, lied about where she was, made up excuses to meet her boyfriend. Jonathan was caught in the middle of it all, trying to make peace between them. He understood both sides. His parents wanted the best for Elena, but she had the right to choose her own life. Until the day Elena couldn't take it anymore, Jonathan would never forget that morning. She came into his room with her eyes red from crying, but with a determination he knew well. "I'm leaving, little brother." "What do you mean, you're leaving?" "I'm going to marry him. We're going to live in another city, far away from here." She held his hands. "I can't live like this anymore. They'll never accept my choice, and I can't give up my happiness because of it." Jonathan felt his world collapse. Elena was his safe harbor, his certainty that everything would be okay. How was he going to live without her? "What about me?" The question came out more desperate than he intended. "You're strong, Jonathan. Stronger than you think." She hugged him tightly. "Taz, we'll talk all the time. You'll come visit us and nothing will change between us." But it did change. In the beginning, they really did talk all the time. Elena called every week, told him about her new life, how her husband treated her well, how happy she was. Jonathan visited a few times in the first few years, but life happened. Jonathan started working, building his career. Elena had financial problems, moved a few times, changed her phone number. The calls became less frequent. They never fought. There was never a dramatic breakup. It was just life, the distance, time passing and each of them going their own way. Jonathan never felt abandoned by Elena. He knew she had no choice. He knew she needed to follow her heart, but he couldn't deny that after she left home, his life became grayer. Their parents were never the same. They forgave Elena over time, but they never forgot her disobedience. The house became quieter, colder, and Jonathan learned to live like that. He learned to be serious, focused, independent. He learned not to need anyone. Until today. He went up the stairs slowly and stopped at the door of the room where Chloe was sleeping. The girl was lying on her side, one hand holding the necklace against her chest. And that's when Jonathan saw it. The shape of her face, the curve of her lips, the blonde hair spread out on the pillow, even the way she slept, with one knee bent up. It was Eleanor. Chloe looked exactly like Elena as a child. Jonathan felt his chest tighten. Elena wasn't here anymore, but she had left a part of herself behind, the most important part, her daughter. And now that part was here, sleeping in the guest room of his house, trusting that he would take care of her. Elena was right when she said he was strong, stronger than he thought. It was time to prove it. Jonathan woke up to a strange noise coming from upstairs. He had fallen asleep on the living room sofa, half keeping an eye on Chloe's room, and now the clock read 6 in the morning. The noise was faint, but insistent, like someone was tossing and turning in bed. He took the stairs 2 at a time. When he opened the bedroom door, he found Chloe turning from side to side, moaning softly. The covers were all messed up, and she seemed to be sweating. "Chloe!" He approached the bed. "Are you okay?" She opened her eyes, but she didn't seem focused. Her gaze was distant, glassy. "I'm hot," she murmured. "I'm so hot." Jonathan touched her forehead with his hand and felt his heart race. She was burning up with fever. My God. He had never taken care of a sick child. He had never taken care of anyone sick, actually. His whole life was made of predictable routines, problems he could solve with logic and organization. But this, a 5-year-old girl with a high fever. He had no idea what to do. "Chloe, listen to me." He tried to keep his voice calm, but he felt panic rising in his throat. "Are you in pain anywhere?" "My head. It hurts a lot." She squeezed her eyes shut. "And I'm cold now." Cold? But she had said she was hot 2 seconds ago. Was that normal? Was it serious? What if it was something serious? What if she needed to go to the hospital? Jonathan left the room almost running and went down the stairs. Where was the phone book? He needed a doctor's number. Any doctor. He found the phone book in a kitchen drawer and started flipping through it with trembling hands. Dr. Peterson, general practitioner. He had gone there a few times when he had the flu. He dialed the number, praying someone would answer so early. Dr. Peterson's office meant good morning. "Please, I need the doctor to come to my house. It's urgent." The words tumbled out. "It's a little girl. She has a very high fever. She's delirious." "Sir, calm down. The doctor can make a house call, but I need more information. What is the child's name?" "How old is she?" Jonathan realized he knew almost nothing about Chloe. He didn't know if she was allergic to any medicine, if she had any health problems, if she had ever had a high fever before. How was he supposed to take care of her if he knew nothing? "She's 5 years old. Her name is Chloe Morrison." He tried to think. "She got here last night, in the rain. She was wet. Maybe she caught a cold. The doctor can be there in an hour. In the meantime, give her a lukewarm bath to bring the fever down and offer plenty of fluids." Lukewarm bath. Fluids. Right. He could do that. Jonathan went back to the room and found Chloe still tossing in bed. She was talking to herself, words he couldn't understand. "Chloe." "I'm going to give you a bath, okay? It will help with the fever." She didn't answer, just kept muttering. He picked her up in his arms. She weighed very little. It was like carrying a bird, and took her to the bathroom. The warm water seemed to help a little. Chloe stopped talking to herself and rested her head on his arm. "Better?" he asked. She nodded slowly. After the bath, he put a clean t-shirt on her and took her back to bed. He brought a glass of water and managed to get her to drink a few sips, but the fever wasn't going down. She was still hot, and now she was shivering too. Jonathan sat on the edge of the bed and touched her forehead again. Still too hot. What if he had done something wrong? What if the bath water wasn't the right temperature? What if he should have taken her to the hospital instead of waiting for the doctor? Elena knew how to take care of him when he was sick. Elena always knew what to do. But him, he was lost. "Please, don't let me mess this up," he whispered, not sure if he was talking to Chloe, to Eleanor, or to any higher power that was listening. Chloe opened her eyes and looked at him. For the first time since she woke up, she seemed truly present. "Are you going to stay here?" she asked in a weak voice. "I am." "I'm not leaving here until you're better." She held out her small hand and he took it. Her skin was hot and sweaty, but her grip was firm. "Mommy always held my hand when I was sick," she said. Jonathan felt his chest tighten. "Your mum was smart. She knew it helps." They stayed like that until the doctor arrived. Jonathan holding Chloe's hand, her sleeping and waking, sometimes talking about things that didn't make sense, sometimes lucid enough to squeeze his hand back. When the doorbell rang, Jonathan practically flew to open the door. Dr. Peterson was a calm, experienced man in his 60s. He examined Chloe carefully, checked her temperature, looked at her throat, listened to her chest. "It's just a bad cold," he said, putting away his stethoscope. "The fever is high, But that's normal in small children. Her body is fighting the virus. Are you sure she was delirious? Also common with a high fever. Give her this medicine every 6 hours, continue with cold compresses, and keep her hydrated. The doctor smiled. In 2 or 3 days, she'll be running around the house. After the doctor left, Jonathan went back to the room. Chloe was calmer. The fever already seemed to be dropping a little. He sat in the armchair next to the bed, prepared to spend the night there if needed. And that's when he understood. For the past few hours, he hadn't thought about work, about appointments, about any of the things that normally dominated his mind. He had only thought about Chloe, about taking care of her, making her feel better, not leaving her alone. For the first time in years, someone else came first in his life. Elena had left much more than a niece at his doorstep. She had left him a purpose, a reason to wake up in the morning, a reason to worry about someone other than himself. Chloe stirred in the bed and murmured something that sounded like, "Thank you." Jonathan held her hand again and whispered back, "Thank you." Because for the first time in a long time, he felt needed. He felt useful. He felt alive. That fragile little girl had awakened something in him that had been dormant for years, something he didn't even know was missing. The instinct to protect, to care, to love someone more than himself. And for the first time since Elena left, Jonathan no longer felt alone. 3 days later, Chloe was all better. Jonathan couldn't say exactly when it happened. On Monday, she was still a bit weak, sleeping a lot and eating little. On Tuesday, she woke up asking if she could have ice cream for breakfast. And on Wednesday, she became a hurricane. Jonathan was in his office trying to answer some important emails when he heard the noise. Small footsteps running down the second-floor hallway, then down the stairs, then up again. Chloe had discovered that the mansion was perfect for running. "Chloe!" he called, leaving the office. "I'm here," the voice came from the entrance hall. He found her standing in the middle of the huge space, arms outstretched, spinning. "Your house is giant," she said, stopping her spin and almost losing her balance. "You can run for hours in here." Jonathan frowned. No one ran inside his house. The house was a place of order, silence, peace. Fair place where everything had its proper place and nothing was out of line. "Chloe, you shouldn't run like that. You could trip, get hurt." "But it's fun." She smiled and ran off again. Jonathan sighed and went back to his office, but he couldn't concentrate. Every 2 minutes he heard her little footsteps running through some corner of the house. The next day it was worse. He woke up and went down for breakfast as he had done for years. Simple routine, black coffee, toast with butter, newspaper. Always the same thing, at the same time, in the same place. But when he entered the kitchen, there was a drawing taped to the refrigerator. A drawing made with crayons, very colorful. It was supposed to be a house, apparently, with a crooked chimney and disproportionately large flowers around it. In the sky, there was a yellow sun with a smiling face. Jonathan stopped in front of the refrigerator, staring at it as if it were an alien object. "Do you like it?" Chloe appeared behind him, still in her pajamas. "I drew our house, our house." The words echoed in his head in a strange way. It's very nice," he said, not sure how to react. Chloe smiled and opened the fridge to get milk. "I'm going to make more drawings today. Your house needs more color." More color. Jonathan looked around the kitchen. Everything was white, gray, black, clean, organized, lifeless. When he came home from work that day, there were 3 new drawings taped to the living room wall. One was supposed to be him, apparently, a tall, thin man with glasses. Another was Chloe, a little girl with yellow hair. The third showed the 2 of them holding hands. He stood there for a few minutes, looking at the drawings. How long had it been since someone drew something for him? How long had it been since someone thought of him as part of a family, even a make-believe one, drawn by a 5-year-old? "Chloe!" he called. "I'm here." The voice came from the dining room. He found her dragging a chair to the window. "Di, what are you doing?" "Picking flowers." She climbed onto the chair and managed to reach the vase on the windowsill. "These ones are wilted. I'm going to get new flowers from the garden." Jonathan opened his mouth to say that she shouldn't mess with the things in the house, that each vase was in its proper place, but he stopped. The vase really did have wilted flowers. It had been weeks since he'd changed them. In fact, it had been months since he'd paid any attention to those vases. They were just there to fill space. "Want some help?" he heard his own voice ask. Chloe smiled. Yes. They went out to the garden together. Jonathan hadn't set foot there in a long time. The gardener came once a week to cut the grass and prune the trees, but nothing more. The flowers that grew naturally were considered weeds and were pulled out. But Chloe didn't care about that. She ran through the garden, picking daisies, dandelions, and small wildflowers that Jonathan didn't even know existed there. "Look how pretty." She held up a handful of yellow flowers. "And they smell good." Jonathan bent down and sniffed. They really did smell good. When was the last time he stopped to smell a flower? They filled 3 vases with flowers from the garden and spread them around the house. Chloe insisted on putting one vase on the kitchen table, another on the living room bookshelf, and the third in the entrance hall. "There," she said, admiring the result. "Now your house looks alive." Jonathan looked around. The drawings on the walls, the flowers in the vases, Chloe's small sneakers left by the entrance, the blanket she used on the sofa still crumpled from when she fell asleep watching TV. It was true. The house looked different. It looked inhabited. "Yeah," he said, a little awkwardly. "I think you're right." Chloe smiled and ran to her room to get more paper to draw. Jonathan stood there, looking at the room that had been his for so many years, but had never really felt like his until now. Because until now, it had never been a home, just a house. The following days brought more changes. Chloe discovered she liked music and started turning on the radio while she played. The house, which had always been silent, now had a soundtrack. Sometimes he would hear her humming in her room or making up silly little songs while taking a bath. She also discovered she liked to cook, or at least help cook, which meant making a mess in the kitchen while Jonathan tried to prepare something edible for the two of them. "Can I stir?" she asked when he was making pasta. "For you can, but be careful." She stood on her tiptoes, holding the wooden spoon with both hands, stirring the pot with all the concentration in the world. Jonathan found himself smiling, a small, almost involuntary smile, but it was there. When was the last time he truly smiled? Not a polite smile for a client or co-worker, but a genuine smile. He couldn't remember. A week after Chloe's fever, Jonathan came home and found another new drawing on the refrigerator. But this time he stopped and looked closely. It was him and Chloe again, but this time they had happy faces drawn on. Huge, crooked smiles, but clearly happy. Above them, in crooked, colorful letters, it was written, "Me and my uncle." My uncle. Jonathan felt something strange in his chest, a warm, good feeling he hadn't felt in a long time. "Do you like it?" Chloe appeared out of nowhere, as always. "I like it a lot." He crouched down to her level. "But why did you draw us smiling so much?" "Because that's how I see you now." She tilted her head to the side. "On the first day, you looked sad. Now you look happy." Happy. He looked happy. Jonathan looked at the drawing again. The him on the paper really did look happy. A wide smile, open arms, next to a little girl who looked at him like he was the most important person in the world. And then it happened. He started to laugh. It wasn't a small smile like the others. It was a real laugh, one that came from deep in his chest and took over his whole body. A laugh that echoed through the kitchen, through the whole house. Chloe started laughing too, even without knowing why he was laughing. And the two of them stood there, laughing together in front of the refrigerator, covered in colorful drawings, in a kitchen that smelled of wildflowers and had music playing softly on the radio. Jonathan couldn't stop laughing. It was as if all the years of seriousness, of control, of a programmed life had cracked all at once, and everything that was kept inside could finally come out. For the first time in years, he was truly, genuinely happy. And all because of a 5-year-old girl who showed up at his door on a stormy night, bringing life to a place he didn't even know was dead. It was Sunday morning and Jonathan was making pancakes when Chloe appeared in the kitchen, still in her pajamas, holding her mother's necklace. "Can I help?" she asked, climbing onto a chair to reach the counter. "Sure, you can mix the batter." They worked in silence for a few minutes. Chloe concentrated on stirring the bowl, Jonathan preparing the skillet. It was a routine they had developed over the last few days, cooking together, talking about simple things. "You know what I like most about living here?" Chloe said suddenly. "What's that?" "We always have food." She continued stirring the batter, as if she had said the most normal thing in the world. Jonathan stopped messing with the skillet. "What do you mean?" "There's always food in the fridge here, and we can make pancakes whenever we want." She smiled at him. "With Mommy, sometimes there wasn't." His chest tightened. "There wasn't what? Food?" "Sometimes no." Chloe didn't seem sad talking about it. She was just stating a fact, especially at the end of the month. Mommy would say the money had run out and we'd have to be creative. Creative how? "Oh, we invented different dinners. Sometimes it was just bread and butter, but Mommy would pretend it was a French banquet." Chloe laughed at the memory. She'd put a nice tablecloth on the table and talk in a funny accent. "I loved it." Jonathan swallowed hard, Eleanor going hungry. Eleanor having to invent games to hide that she didn't have money for food. And did that happen a lot? Every week at the end of the month? But it's okay. Chloe poured a little more milk into the batter. "Mommy always said the important thing wasn't what we ate, but that we were together." Jonathan flipped the first pancake, trying to process what he was hearing. Elena struggling, getting by however she could, doing everything so her daughter wouldn't realize how much they were struggling. "Your mum, did she work?" "She did. She cleaned houses in the morning, and in the afternoon she took care of Mr. Albert, who was old and couldn't walk well." Chloe licked some of the batter off the spoon. "But she always said money was complicated, that sometimes you had it and sometimes you didn't." 2 pancakes done. Jonathan kept making more, trying to keep his hands busy so they wouldn't show he was shaking. "And when your mom got sick?" "Then it got harder." For the first time, Chloe's voice got quieter. She couldn't work every day anymore. She got really tired. "Sometimes she slept all day." "And you, who took care of you?" "I took care of myself. I already knew how to make sandwiches and heat up milk." Chloe spoke with pride. "Mommy always said I was very smart for my age." Jonathan had to stop cooking. His hands were shaking so much he couldn't hold the spatula properly. A 5-year-old girl taking care of herself. Making sandwiches because her mother was too sick to get out of bed. Going hungry at the end of the month. Inventing games so she wouldn't feel like something was missing. "But you know what Mommy never let us run out of," Chloe continued, as if she didn't notice Jonathan was about to cry. "Love, she always gave me a goodnight kiss, even when she was very sick. And she always said she loved me. She loved you very much. And she talked about you too, always." Chloe hopped off the chair and went to the fridge to get jam. She said she had a brother who was the best person in the world, but he lived far away. Far away. Jonathan lived a 3-hour drive from where Elena was. 3 hours. He could have visited. He could have helped. He could have found out she was in need, but he didn't. He stayed in his big house with a fridge that was always full, working, earning money he didn't even know how to spend, while Elena improvised dinners with bread and butter so her daughter wouldn't go hungry. "Jonathan," Chloe touched his arm. "Are you okay?" "You're crying again." He quickly wiped his eyes. "I'm fine, it's just, your mum was a very special person." "She was." Chloe went back to her chair. "She always said that if anything happened to her, I had to come here. That you would take care of me better than anyone in the world." How could Elena be so sure of that? After all the years without contact, after he never helped when she needed it, she still believed he would do the right thing. They finished the pancakes and sat down to eat. Chloe talked about other memories with Elena, the stories she told before bed, the walks in the park on Sundays, the cartoons they watched together when Elena wasn't working. Every story was a stab in Jonathan's chest. Elena being a wonderful mother despite all the difficulties. Elena giving love and attention even when she was exhausted from work. Elena protecting Chloe from knowing how much they were struggling to survive. After breakfast, Chloe went to play in the garden. Jonathan stayed alone in the kitchen, looking out the window at the girl chasing butterflies. He could have prevented all of this. If he had swallowed his pride, If he had called Elena, if he had gone to visit, he could have helped with money. He could have paid for a better doctor when she got sick. He could have made sure Chloe never went hungry. But he did none of it. He stayed in his comfort zone while his sister suffered. Jonathan picked up the necklace Chloe had left on the kitchen table. The metal was warm, as if it still held the heat from the small hands that always held it. He closed his eyes and held the necklace tightly against his chest. "I won't fail this time," he murmured, so quietly only he could hear. "Elena, I promise. I won't fail this time." It was a promise to the sister who was no longer there to hear it, but it was also a promise to Chloe, who was right there, running in the garden, trusting him to take care of her, and this time he would keep it. After a week of living together, Jonathan realized that Chloe still didn't know the whole truth. She talked about Elena as if she were a childhood friend of his, someone he met by chance and lost contact with. She had no idea they were siblings. She had no idea she herself had a real family. It was late at night. Chloe was on the sofa watching cartoons, still in her pajamas after her bath. Jonathan watched her for a few minutes, her blonde hair still damp, her blue eyes focused on the television, the necklace always present around her neck. It was time to tell her. "Chloe," he called, turning off the TV. "Hey!" She turned to him, making a disappointed face. "Can I watch a little more?" "In a bit. First, I want to show you something." Jonathan went up to his room and went to the closet. In the back, in a dusty box he hadn't touched in years, was what he was looking for, an old photo album with a worn leather cover that he hadn't opened since he moved into this house. When he returned to the living room, Chloe was sitting cross-legged on the sofa, swinging her feet curiously. "What is that?" She touched the cover of the album carefully. "It's a photo album." Jonathan sat next to her, feeling the familiar weight of the book on his lap. "They're old photos. From when I was a kid. Can I see?" "That's why I brought it." He opened to the first page. There was a photo of him at about 7 years old, smiling with 2 front teeth missing, holding an ice cream cone that was melting in his hand. Next to him, a 10-year-old Elena, hugging him by the shoulders, trying to wipe the ice cream that was dripping down his arm. Chloe's eyes widened and she leaned closer. "That's Mommy," she pointed at Eleanor with her little finger. "Mommy when she was a kid. Look at her hair, just like mine." "It is." Chloe looked at the photo, then at Jonathan, then back at the photo, as if she were trying to solve a puzzle. "But why do you have a picture of Mommy when she was little?" Jonathan turned the page without answering yet. More photos of the two of them. Elena pushing him on the park swing, the two of them making faces at the camera. A photo at the beach, where Elena was teaching him how to build a sandcastle, both of them covered in sand, even in their hair. Another where she was holding his hand while he tried to ride a bike without training wheels. "Because we grew up together," he said slowly, watching Chloe's expression change. She frowned, trying to understand. "You lived in the same house?" "We did." More pages. Birthdays where Elena always appeared blowing out the candles with him, even when it was just his birthday. Christmases where they both appeared in pajamas under the tree, surrounded by presents. Vacations at their grandparents' beach house, where Elena always made sure he didn't drown in the pool. In every photo, Elena was taking care of him in some way, fixing his hair, holding his hand, hugging him when he cried. She lived in your house." Chloe was getting more and more confused. "Was she like a stepsister?" Jonathan stopped at a specific photo, him at 15, Eleanor at 18, on her high school graduation day. She was hugging him, wearing the blue dress their mother had bought especially for the occasion. Both of them smiling for the camera, Elena with her diploma in hand. Chloe." He took a deep breath, feeling his heart race. "She wasn't just a friend. Elena was my sister. You are my niece." Total silence. Chloe looked at him as if he had spoken in a foreign language. She blinked several times, processing. "Your niece?" "Yes. Elena was my big sister. 3 years older than me. You are my sister's daughter." Chloe looked at the photo again, then at him, then back at the photo, as if the pieces were finally fitting together in her head. "You mean you're my uncle?" "I am." "A real uncle?" From a real family. A real uncle. Chloe's eyes filled with tears, but they weren't sad tears. They were tears of relief, of happiness, of finally understanding why she felt so comfortable here. "I have a family," she whispered, as if testing the words. "Yes, you do. A real family. Not just you being nice to me. Family by blood. You are my niece, Chloe." She was quiet for a moment, absorbing the information. Then she looked at him with curiosity. "Mommy never told me she had a brother." Jonathan felt his chest tighten. Of course, Elena talked about him, but probably not in detail, probably trying to protect Chloe from the pain of the estrangement. "She talked about me. You said I was a good person." "She did, but she never said you were my uncle. Never said you were her brother." Chloe tilted her head, with that serious expression she made when she was thinking hard. "If you're my uncle, why did I never meet you?" The question he dreaded. How to explain to a 5-year-old about pride, about family fights, about how adults sometimes complicate things that should be simple. "It's complicated." He ran a hand through his hair, searching for the right words. "Your mum and I, we grew apart when she moved far away. It wasn't a real fight. It was grown-up stuff. Like when I fight with someone at school, and then I'm too embarrassed to say sorry." Jonathan smiled despite the situation. "Yeah, something like that. Except adults are even more stubborn than kids sometimes. But you were family. Family can't stay away forever." The simplicity of the observation hit him like a punch to the gut. She was right. Family shouldn't stay away forever. "You're right. We should have talked more. But now you've made up." How could he tell her it was too late to make up? That Elena was no longer here to hear apologies, that he would have to live forever knowing he missed the chance to fix things. Now what matters is that you're here with me." He held her small hand. "And from now on, you will never be alone again." Chloe looked at Elena's photo again. She gently traced her mother's face in the image, as if she could feel her skin through the paper. "She looks happy in these pictures." She was happy. Your mum was always a happy person. Even when things got hard, she found a way to smile. "And you look happy too." Jonathan looked at his own image in the photos. It was true. He was genuinely smiling in those old photos. Smiling in a way he hadn't smiled in years. In every image, he looked relaxed, at ease, genuinely content. "I was happy when your mum was around. She had this gift of making everything feel lighter." Chloe continued flipping through the album pages. There were hundreds of photos, their entire childhood and adolescence documented there. Jonathan was surprised by how many good memories were captured in those pages. "Can I keep one picture of Mommy?" she asked, stopping on a page where Elena appeared at 20 years old. "You can keep as many as you want." She chose the photo of Elena in their parents' garden, smiling in the afternoon sun. She looked beautiful in the image, with her blonde hair loose in the wind and a yellow floral dress that brought out her blue eyes. "I'll put it in my room," Chloe said, stroking the photo carefully. "That way she'll always be with me when I wake up." She smiled as she looked at her mother's picture, a soft, loving smile, full of longing but also pure love. Jonathan felt something stir in his chest. That smile was exactly like Elena's. "You know what else?" Chloe said, still looking at the photo. "Now I understand why I felt at home here from the very first day. It's because we really are family." In the following days, something changed completely. Chloe started following Jonathan around the house like a little shadow. If he went to his office to work, she would show up 5 minutes later with paper and crayons to draw while he typed on the computer. If he went to the kitchen for coffee in the morning, she came along to make hot chocolate. If he went out to the garden to water the plants, she appeared behind him wanting to help. "Why are you following me?" he asked one Saturday morning, when she showed up in the bathroom while he was shaving. "I'm not following. I just want to be close." She sat on the edge of the bathtub, swinging her little legs. "Can I?" "You can. Just don't touch anything sharp." She sat there, watching him run the razor over his face with total fascination. "How do you do that without cutting yourself?" "Practice. I've been doing this for many years." "Since when?" "Since I was 16, more or less." Mommy said you were always very careful with everything. Jonathan stopped shaving. She said that. She did. She said you were the type of person who never broke anything, never got hurt, always thought before doing anything. Chloe tilted her head. Is that true? More or less. Your mom was the clumsy one. She was always getting hurt. I'm kind of clumsy too. I spilled my juice yesterday. I saw. But it's no problem. Chloe stayed there watching his every move until he finished. When he washed his face and put on aftershave, she sniffed and made a face. What a strong smell. It's aftershave. All men use it. When I grow up, am I going to use it too? Jonathan laughed. You're a girl, Chloe. Girls don't grow beards. Oh, right. She seemed disappointed. Yes, but can I wear perfume? You can. At breakfast, she copied exactly the way he folded his napkin. When he put sugar in his coffee, she put sugar in her hot chocolate. When he opened the newspaper, she grabbed a storybook and pretended to read too, even imitating his posture. Chloe, you don't have to do everything just like me. I know. But I like it. She looked up over her book. Mommy always said I was good at copying people. She thought it was funny. At lunch, she tried to cut her food the same way he did. She held the fork and knife exactly as he held them, even though it was a bit difficult with her small hands. When he went to read on the sofa after work, she would grab a book too and sit next to him in the same position. Don't you think it's weird that I'm imitating you? She asked one afternoon. Why would I think it's weird? I don't know. Maybe it's annoying. It's not annoying. Actually, your mum used to do the same thing when she was little. She followed me everywhere, tried to do everything I did. Really? Really? She wanted to learn how to play video games because I played. She wanted to read the same books I read. One time, she even tried to cut her own hair because I had cut mine. Chloe laughed. And did it work? It was terrible. My mom had to take her to the hairdresser to fix the mess. One afternoon, Jonathan was in his office when he heard a laugh coming from Chloe's room. But it wasn't just any laugh. It was a laugh he knew very, very well. It was exactly Elena's laugh as a child. That wonderful, spontaneous laugh that bubbled up from deep inside. He stopped what he was doing and just listened, his heart racing. Chloe was playing by herself, making up different voices for imaginary dolls, and laughing in that specific way that brought all the memories of Elena rushing back. Later, at dinner, she made a gesture with her hand that made Jonathan choke on his water. It was the same gesture Elena used to make when she was explaining something complicated. The same way of moving her hand in the air, as if she were drawing the words in space. Chloe. Yeah. Your mom used to make that gesture too. With her hand. Chloe looked at her own hand, confused. And what gesture? The one you just made when you were telling me about the drawing. It's exactly like your mom's. Really? She seemed surprised. I didn't know I did that. You do. It's exactly the same. Jonathan continued to watch her over the next few days. The small gestures, the expressions, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking about something hard. It was like having little Elena back in the house. But it wasn't just that. Chloe had developed some of her own habits too. She hummed in the shower, just like Elena did. But she also had a habit of organizing her crayons by size before drawing, something Elena never did. And she had a quirk of counting the steps when she went up the stairs, something that was all her own. It was as if she were a perfect mix of her mother and her own unique, special personality. Jonathan? Chloe called out one night when he was reading on the sofa. Yeah? Were you always so serious? He looked up from his book. What do you mean? You're very serious. You talk quietly, you walk slowly, you think a lot before you say anything. She tilted her head to the side, studying him. Were you always like this? Jonathan closed the book, thinking about the answer. It was a deeper question than she realized. No, not always. What were you like before? Before I was different. More carefree, maybe. I laughed more easily. What changed? How to explain to a child that life sometimes weighs on your shoulders, that sometimes you become more serious, more closed off, without even realizing it's happening. You know, life got more complicated. Work, responsibilities, growing up. He paused, thinking, but mostly, not when your mom was around. He broke into a sincere smile, the first really big smile since Chloe had arrived, a smile that came from within, genuine. She made me laugh. Like you do now. Chloe smiled back, and suddenly she got up from where she was and came to sit next to him on the sofa, snuggling into his arm. "Can I ask you a question, Uncle Jonathan?" Uncle Jonathan. The words hit him like a lightning bolt. It was the first time she had called him that. Uncle Jonathan. Not just Jonathan, but Uncle Jonathan. He sat still for a few seconds, feeling something warm and good spreading through his chest. "Pa, you can ask me anything. Are you going to teach me the things Mommy didn't get to teach me?" The question was simple, but loaded with so much meaning that Jonathan felt his eyes well up. What kind of things? "I don't know. Family stuff. Stories about Mommy when she was little. How to make food that doesn't burn. How to drive a car. Stuff like that." "I will. I'll teach you everything you want to learn. And are you going to stay here with me forever?" "I'll stay, Chloe, forever. Even if I make a mess sometimes? Even if you make a mess? Even if I mess up the house? Even if you mess up the house? What if I grow up and become a bratty teenager?" Jonathan laughed. "Especially if you become a bratty teenager. Then I'll need to be here to tell you off." She laughed too and nestled even closer into his arm, satisfied with all the answers. Jonathan sat there, feeling her small, warm weight leaning against him, listening to her calm breathing adjust to the rhythm of his own. Uncle Jonathan. For the first time in years, he felt the shell of seriousness he had built around himself starting to crack, as if Chloe was, little by little, reminding him of who he really was, underneath all that rigidity. Elena always said he was more fun than he thought, that he just needed to stop worrying so much about everything and let that part of him show more. Maybe, finally, it was time to try. "Want to see a special place?" Jonathan asked one Saturday morning after they finished breakfast. Chloe was on the living room floor, organizing her crayons by size. "What place?" "A park. A place where your mum and I used to play when we were little." Chloe's eyes lit up. "Really? Can I go? That's why I'm asking." She jumped up from the floor, scattering the crayons. "I'll get my jacket." The park was a 20-minute drive from the house. Jonathan hadn't been there in at least 10 years, but he knew the way by heart. During their childhood, he and Elena would walk there every weekend. "Is it far?" Chloe asked from the back seat. "Not too far. Are you going to like it?" When they arrived, Jonathan parked in the same spot where his father always used to park. The park was different. Some of the equipment had been painted, but the essence was the same. "Wow, it's big," Chloe said, getting out of the car. Jonathan looked around, feeling nostalgic. The huge tree in the center was still there. The small pond at the back was too, and the bench. "Come with me, I want to show you something." They walked to a wooden bench under a leafy tree. The bench was worn, with peeling paint, but it was the same one. "This was our favorite bench." Jonathan sat down and patted the spot next to him. "Your mum always chose this spot to rest." "Why?" "Because from here you can see the whole park. Elena liked to watch the other kids play." Chloe looked all around, imagining the scene. "Did Mommy play on the swings?" "She did. She was obsessed with the swings, the higher, the better. I like them too." "Can I go?" "Of course." They headed down towards the playground. Chloe ran straight for the swings, as if she knew exactly where she wanted to go. Jonathan pushed her slowly at first. "Higher," she requested, laughing. He pushed a little harder. Chloe squealed with delight, throwing her head back, her blonde hair flying in the wind. And that's when Jonathan saw it. It was exactly the same. The same posture, the same way of throwing her head back, the same laugh. It was as if he was seeing little Eleanor again, swinging in that same spot 30 years ago. "Higher!" Chloe shouted. Jonathan pushed harder, watching her every move. The way she held the chains, how she arched her back to gain momentum, how she closed her eyes at the highest point, just like Elena. After a few minutes, Chloe jumped off the swing and ran to the slide. "Look how high it is!" She waved from the top. "Be careful not to fall!" She slid down laughing, arms in the air. "Did Mommy climb this high when she was little?" She did. But she was afraid of heights, so it always took her about 10 minutes to come down. "I'm not scared, I'm brave like a lion." Then she wanted to see the pond. They walked to the water's edge where ducks were swimming. "Can I feed them?" Chloe found some pieces of bread near a trash can and started throwing them into the water. The ducks approached immediately. "Look! This one is John Chilus," she said, pointing to a larger duck, "and that one is Mary. They're married." That was exactly what Elena used to do. Always made up names for the ducks, always created stories about them. "How do you know they're married?" "Because they swim close together, just like Mommy and Daddy did." His chest tightened. Eleanor and the husband he never met. They went back to the bench under the tree. Chloe sat in the same way Elena used to sit, cross-legged, leaning against the arm of the bench. "Jonathan, can you teach me a game you two used to play?" He thought for a moment. There's one she loved. It's called Guess What I'm Thinking. How do you play? One person thinks of something, and the other has to guess by asking questions. "Can I start?" Chloe closed her eyes, concentrating. "Okay, ready. Is it a person?" "No." "Is it an animal?" "No." "Is it something here in the park?" "Yes." "Is it big?" "Sort of." "Is it the pond?" "No." "Is it the tree?" "No." "I give up." "What is it?" Chloe opened her eyes, smiling. "It's the bench we're sitting on." "Too smart. Now it's my turn." Jonathan thought of something easy. "Are ready? Is it a person?" "Yes." "Is it a woman?" "Yes." "Is she alive?" Jonathan hesitated. She's alive in my heart." Chloe tilted her head, thinking, "Is it Mommy?" "It is," she smiled. Then she was quiet for a moment. "Mommy is alive in my heart too." Jonathan felt his eyes well up. "I know she is. And in yours too. In mine too." Chloe stood up and stood in front of him. "Can I give you a hug?" He opened his arms and she threw herself into them, squeezing tight. "Thank you for bringing me here. Now I know a place where Mommy was happy." Jonathan hugged her back, feeling the tears run down his face. But they weren't sad tears. They were tears of gratitude for Eleanor leaving Chloe for him, for having this chance to love someone, for being able to feel his sister's presence through her daughter. When they pulled apart, Chloe wiped the tears from his face with her small hands. "Don't cry. Mommy didn't like it when people were sad. I'm not sad. I'm happy." "Then why are you crying?" "Sometimes we cry from happiness too." She thought for a second. "Oh, like when I got that doll for Christmas." Exactly like that. They stayed at the park for another hour. Chloe played a little more, always coming back to the bench to talk to him. When it was time to go, she took one last look around. "Or can I come back here again? Whenever you want. Promise?" "I promise." In the car on the way home, Chloe fell asleep in the back seat. Jonathan looked in the rearview mirror and smiled. She slept exactly the way Elena used to sleep in the car when they were little, with her head against the window, one hand holding her mother's necklace. Elena was there. In every gesture, in every smile, in every word from Chloe. His sister was gone, but she had left the most important part of herself with him, and this time he wasn't going to let it slip away. 2 weeks after the trip to the park, Jonathan decided it was time to be practical. If he wanted to officially care for Chloe, he needed to resolve the legal guardianship issue. He was in his office sorting documents to take to the lawyer on Monday when he found a small box he didn't remember seeing before. It was in the back of his desk drawer, behind old folders. It was a shoebox, slightly crushed, with Elena written on the side in his sister's own handwriting. Jonathan stopped what he was doing. How did this box get here? He didn't remember saving anything of Elena's. He opened it carefully. Inside were some old letters, a few photos that weren't in the album, and a small, flower-covered notebook. A diary. Jonathan picked up the diary with shaking hands. The cover was worn, as if it had been handled a lot. Elena always liked to write. When they were teenagers, she was always jotting things down in a notebook. But what was this diary? And how did it end up in his drawer? He opened to the first page. The date was from 5 years ago. Chloe turned 3 today. She looked beautiful in the little blue dress I bought her. I wish so badly Jonathan was here to see. He would love her. He was always good with kids. His heart raced. Elena wrote about him in her diary. Even after so much time without contact, she still thought of him. He skipped a few pages, more notes about Chloe, about their daily life, about work, and every now and then references to him. Chloe asked if she has aunts and uncles. I told her about Jonathan. She wants to meet him. One day, I dreamed about my little brother last night. We were at the park like old times. He was laughing, like he used to laugh when we were little. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like if we hadn't drifted apart, if Jonathan knew Chloe, if she could have a real uncle in her life. Jonathan had to stop reading. The tears were blurring the words on the page. Elena thought about him. During all those years of silence, she thought about him. He continued flipping through. The entries became sparser as the pages went on. It must have gotten harder to write when she fell ill. On the last page, with any writing, there was a different kind of note. The handwriting was weaker, as if she was very tired when she wrote it. I'm scared. The doctors aren't optimistic. Chloe is so little. What's going to happen to her? I think about Jonathan every day. I know he'd be mad at me for not getting in touch sooner, but I also know that if anything happens to me, he will take care of her. I trust him more than anyone in the world. My brother, my best friend. No matter where I am, we will always be together. Jonathan felt the tears streaming down his face, unable to control them. Eleanor trusted him, even after all these years. Even without them speaking, she trusted him to do the right thing. And that last sentence, it was as if she had left a message for him. As if she knew that one day he would read those words and need to hear that, "We will always be together." He closed his eyes, clutching the diary to his chest. It was as if Elena was right there in the room with him, saying those words. "Jonathan." Chloe's voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Are you okay?" He turned. She was standing in the office doorway, looking at him with concern. "I am," he said, quickly wiping the tears. "You were crying again." "Yeah, but not from sadness." Chloe came closer and saw the diary in his hand. "What's that?" "It's a diary from your mum. I found it here in the drawer." Mommy kept a diary. Her eyes lit up. "Can I see?" Jonathan hesitated. Would it be appropriate to show her? There were very personal things in there. "You can see some parts. There are things about you when you were little." He opened to a page where Eleanor described Chloe's first day of preschool. "Chloe went to school today. She cried a little when she saw me leaving, but the teacher said she was fine afterward. She's brave like her dad. And stubborn like me. Jonathan would get a kick out of her." "She wrote about me," Chloe said, amazed. "She wrote a lot about you. Your mum loved you so much." "What else does it say, Uncle?" Jonathan looked at the last page again, at the sentence that had touched his heart so deeply. "It says that I was never alone. And you will never be alone either." Chloe tilted her head, curious. "What does that mean?" "Your mom always knew that if anything happened to her, I would take care of you. She trusted me, even though we hadn't spoken in a long time. And you will take care of me forever." Jonathan closed the diary and held it tightly against his chest. He looked at Chloe, her blue eyes identical to Elena's, her expression hopeful but a little fearful. "I will, and I'm going to do it the right way." On Monday morning, Jonathan was sitting in the lawyer's office with a pile of documents on the table. "You want to file for permanent guardianship?" Mr. Martinez asked, adjusting his glasses. "I do. Chloe is my niece. She has no one else." "Do you have any documents proving the relationship?" Jonathan showed Elena's birth certificate and Chloe's birth certificate. "Perfect. And does your financial situation allow you to support a child?" "Perfectly. Then I see no problem. I'll prepare the papers. In a few weeks, Chloe will officially be your ward." When he got home, Chloe was watching cartoons in the living room. "How did it go at the lawyer's?" she asked, without taking her eyes off the TV. "Very well. Soon you'll officially be my niece, according to the law." She turned to him. "What does that mean?" "It means no one can force me to give you to someone else. You're going to live here with me for as long as you want." "Forever?" "If you want, forever." Chloe jumped off the sofa and threw herself into his arms. I do. I want forever. That afternoon, Jonathan had an idea. Chloe, come with me. I want to show you something. He took her to a room on the second floor that he always used for storage. It was a large room, with a window overlooking the garden. What do you think about turning this into your real room? Chloe looked around, imagining the possibilities. My very own room. All yours. We can buy new furniture. Paint the walls whatever color you want. Decorate it just the way you like. Really? Her eyes sparkled. I can choose everything. You can choose everything. They spent the rest of the afternoon planning. Chloe wanted light pink walls, a canopy bed, a bookshelf, a desk for drawing. And here, she said, pointing to the wall next to the window. Can I put up my drawings? You can put up as many drawings as you want. And can Mommy's picture be on the table next to my bed? Of course it can. And can I have a fluffy rug on the floor? You can have whatever you want, Chloe. She ran around the empty room, imagining what it would be like when it was finished. Does this mean I'm going to live here forever? She asked suddenly, stopping in front of him. That's exactly what I want, Chloe. And you're not going to give me back to anyone? Never. You're my family. You don't give back family. The smile that spread across her face was the most beautiful Jonathan had ever seen. So we're a real family. We are a real family. To celebrate, they decided to improvise a special dinner. Jonathan tried to make lasagna, but he burned the edges. Chloe made a salad that was way too salty. This lasagna is a bit burnt, Chloe said, trying a piece. And this salad is very salty, Jonathan replied, laughing. Fast, we're not very good cooks, are we? Not really, but we'll get better. They ate the poorly made food, laughing with every bite. It was the most delicious meal Jonathan had eaten in years, not because it was tasty, but because he finally had someone to share it with. Uncle Jonathan? Yeah. Mommy was right about you. Right about what? She said you were the best person in the world, Chloe smiled. And she also said you would take care of me better than anyone. Jonathan felt his chest fill with a good, warm feeling. Elena had left him much more than a daughter to care for. She had left him a family. She had left him a purpose. She had left him a reason to truly smile again. And as he looked at Chloe, eating burnt lasagna and laughing at her own jokes, he knew Elena had been right about everything. They were going to be okay, the two of them together, building a new life. A life Elena would have completely approved of. 6 months after Chloe came into his life, Jonathan could barely remember what it was like to live alone. The house had turned into something completely different. In the morning, he would wake up to the sound of little footsteps running down the hall, Chloe always excited to start the day. The breakfast he used to eat in silence, reading the newspaper, was now full of conversation. Uncle Jonathan, can I put jam on my toast? You can. And chocolate in my milk? You can, but not too much. And can I tell you about the dream I had? I dreamed we had a giant dog that could fly. I want to hear all about it. It was like this every morning. Chloe told him the craziest dreams, talked about her plans for the day, asked 1,000 questions. Jonathan answered every single one, smiling in a way he didn't know he could still smile. Work had changed too. He would get to the office and talk about Chloe to his colleagues, show them the drawings she made for him, leave early when she had something special at school. You're a different man, said Marcus, a partner at the firm, in a meeting. More relaxed, more present. I'm taking care of my niece, Jonathan replied, not minding talking about his personal life at work for the first time in years. I didn't know you had a niece. I didn't either. She appeared in my life like a gift. At night, after dinner, they would sit on the sofa to read. Chloe would pick a storybook and he would read aloud, making different voices for the characters. She would laugh out loud when he imitated the big bad wolf or the wicked witch. Do it again, do the dragon voice. And he would, feeling a little silly but completely happy. Sometimes she would fall asleep in the middle of the story, leaning against his arm, and he would sit there for an hour, just enjoying the moment. On weekends, they would plan outings. They went to the park where Elena used to play, to the mall to buy new clothes for her, to the ice cream shop downtown. Jonathan discovered he liked walking without rushing, stopping for Chloe to look at things that caught her attention. Look at that dog. It's just like the one in my dream. Look at that flower. Can I pick one for my room? Look at that little bird. I wonder if he has a family too. Everything was a source of curiosity for her. And little by little, Jonathan started to remember how to see the world through a child's eyes too. One afternoon, he found her in the garden playing alone, talking to the flowers as if they were people. "Hi, little Daisy. You look pretty today. Want to be my friend?" Jonathan watched for a few minutes, smiling. When she saw him at the window, she waved happily. "Uncle." "The flowers talked to me." "They did? What did they say?" "They said they like living in our garden because we take good care of them." And he went down to play with her, something he never imagined he would do. They invented names for the flowers, created stories about the birds, chased butterflies until they were out of breath. "Were you like this when you were little?" Chloe asked, lying on the grass next to him. "I don't remember being like this." "That's a shame. You're really fun when you play." Jonathan looked up at the blue sky, feeling the sun on his face and Chloe's laughter echoing in the garden. It was true. He was fun when he played. He had forgotten that. Chloe had awakened a part of him he thought he had lost forever. But there was one thing that still needed to be resolved. Chloe's grandparents. Jonathan thought about them often. His parents, who were her grandparents, but didn't know she existed. Elena had never returned home after she got married. His parents had never met their granddaughter. He knew they regretted what happened with Elena. On the few occasions they spoke, they always asked if he had news of her. They always showed they missed her. It was time to fix that, too. One Sunday afternoon, Jonathan gathered the courage to make the call. "Hello?" His mother's voice, weaker than he remembered, but still firm. "Hi, Mum." "It's Jonathan." Silence on the other end. They rarely spoke, always quick, formal conversations. "Jonathan, what a surprise. Is everything all right?" "It is. Actually, I need to talk to you about something very important. Can I come over today?" "Of course, son, your father will be pleased. It's been a long time since you've been here." Jonathan looked at Chloe, who was in the garden chasing butterflies, wearing a little yellow dress that matched her blonde hair. "I'm bringing someone with me." His parents' house was an hour's drive from Jonathan's mansion. It was the same house where he and Elena grew up, but it seemed smaller and older in his memory. The garden was still well kept. The flowers his mother always loved still coloring the entrance. "Who are we visiting?" Chloe asked from the car, adjusting the necklace. "Your grandparents." "I have grandparents?" Her eyes lit up, as they always did when she found out she had more family. "You do. They're Uncle Jonathan's parents. They were your mum's parents too. Do they know I exist?" "Not yet. It's going to be a surprise." "Do you think they'll like me?" Jonathan looked in the rearview mirror and smiled at her. "They're going to love you. It's impossible not to love you." When they arrived, Jonathan took a deep breath before ringing the doorbell. Chloe held his hand, curious but confident. The door opened and his father appeared, older, grayer, more stooped by the years, but still imposing. "Jonathan," he smiled, a rare but genuine smile. "It's good to see you, son." "Hi, Dad." Jonathan leaned back to reveal Chloe. "I want to introduce you to someone very important." His father looked down and saw the little girl. Blonde hair shining in the sun, huge blue eyes holding a delicate necklace. His face changed completely. The color drained from it. His eyes widened. "My God," he whispered. "She looks just like Eleanor." Jonathan finished, feeling his heart race. "Dad, this is Chloe, your granddaughter." Elena's daughter. The man who had always been so serious, so controlled, fell apart right there. He started to cry at the door, unable to stop. Tears streamed down his wrinkled face, his shoulders shaking. "Elena had a daughter," he murmured, kneeling to Chloe's level with difficulty. "A beautiful daughter. Our little granddaughter." Jonathan's mother appeared behind her husband. When she saw Chloe, the reaction was the same. The tears came immediately, uncontrollably. "It's our granddaughter," she said, holding out trembling hands to touch Chloe's face. "Our little granddaughter." just like Elena when she was little. Chloe looked at the two crying adults and then at Jonathan, not quite understanding what was happening. Why are they crying? Did I do something wrong? No, sweetie. They're crying because they're happy, Jonathan answered, emotional himself. Very happy to meet you. Can I give them a hug? You can. Chloe let go of her uncle's hand and hugged her grandfather first. The man who had always been so rigid melted completely, holding his little granddaughter as if she were the most precious thing in the world. I'm sorry, he whispered, but not to Chloe. It was to Elena, to the daughter he lost because of pride. I'm sorry, my girl. I'm sorry for everything. Then it was the grandmother's turn. She hugged Chloe and couldn't stop crying, kissing the girl's face over and over. Our beautiful granddaughter, just like your mom when she was tiny. You knew my mom? Chloe asked when they pulled away from the hug. We did, sweetie. Your mom was our daughter. The grandmother gently stroked Chloe's blonde hair. And now you're here, our dear granddaughter. They went into the house. Everything was just as Jonathan remembered from his childhood. The old furniture, the photos on the wall, the smell of cake his mother always made on Sundays. The grandparents wanted to know everything about Chloe, about Elena, about how she had come to Jonathan. Is Elena gone? The mother asked, already knowing the answer from her son's tears. A few months ago. She had been sick for a while, and we didn't even know. The father shook his head, full of regret. And our own daughter. You didn't know because Elena thought it was for the best, Jonathan said carefully. She didn't want to bother you. Bother us? The mother was outraged. She was our daughter. You didn't approve of her marriage. She thought... We were idiots, the father interrupted, banging his fist on the table. Proud idiots. Helena was the most wonderful daughter anyone could have, and we lost her over something stupid. We lost so many years. The mother was crying again. So many years we could have spent with her, with our granddaughter. Chloe was sitting on her grandmother's lap, playing with the necklace, oblivious to the heavy adult conversation. This necklace is Mommy's, she told her grandmother, taking it off to show her. It's beautiful, sweetie. Can I see it up close? Chloe handed her the necklace. The grandmother recognized it immediately, and more tears began to fall. Jonathan gave this to your mum when she turned 18, she told Chloe. Elena loved this necklace. She wore it all the time. Mommy said that when I grew up she would tell me the story of it, but she went to heaven before she could. The grandmother looked at Jonathan, her eyes full of tears again. Now your uncle can tell you. They spent the whole afternoon together. The grandparents wanted to hear about everything, how Chloe arrived at Jonathan's house, what it was like living there, what she liked to do, how she was in school. Chloe told them about her new room, all pink, just as she wanted, about the drawings on the fridge, about the trips to the park where her mom used to play. She talked about the burnt lasagna and the salty salad, making everyone laugh between their tears. Uncle Jonathan didn't know how to cook at all when I arrived, she said, laughing, but now we know how to make pancakes without burning them. At the end of the afternoon, they were all sitting in the grandparents' garden, Jonathan, Chloe, and the grandparents, watching the sun set between the trees. Chloe was playing on the grass, chasing a yellow butterfly. The necklace glittered on her neck in the golden light of the late afternoon. She is exactly like Elena was at that age, the mother said, watching her granddaughter play. She is, Jonathan agreed, in everything. Her gestures, her curiosity, the way she sees the world. And you? The father looked at him closely. You're different too. Lighter, more like the boy you used to be. Chloe did that to me. She reminded me what it was like to be happy. Elena used to do the same thing to you when you were little. The mother smiled through her tears. She always knew how to bring out the best in people. Chloe came running back and threw herself into Jonathan's lap, breathless but happy. I really like Grandma and Grandpa, she said. They're nice. Can I visit them again? Whenever you want, the grandfather answered before Jonathan could, leaning in to kiss her forehead. Our house is your house too, little one. And you can come to our house too. I can show you my room and my drawings. We will, sweetie, the grandmother promised. We'll visit you all the time. Chloe stood up, and took a walk around the garden, breathing deeply. "Now I have a big family," she said, smiling at the group. "I have Uncle Jonathan, I have Grandpa, I have Grandma. Mommy would be happy, right?" Jonathan felt his chest swell with emotion. He looked at her, then at his parents, then at the garden where Elena used to play as a child, and full of love, just like your mom always wanted. When they got home that night, Chloe was already sleepy. Jonathan helped her change and brush her teeth, as he did every night. It was a special day, wasn't it, Uncle? It was the most special of all. Grandma and Grandpa are nice, and they liked me a lot, right? They loved you. They saw in you the Elena they lost. And do you think Mommy would be happy knowing I met them? Jonathan thought about the question as he tucked Chloe into the pink bed she loved so much. Your mom would be very happy. It was her dream for all of us to be a family again, for love to be stronger than anything. And now we are. Now we are. Chloe snuggled into her pillow, holding the necklace as she always did to fall asleep. Thank you, Uncle, for taking care of me, for giving me a family. The words hit Jonathan straight in the heart. He leaned down and kissed her forehead. Thank you for giving me back what was missing in my life, a family. Chloe smiled and closed her eyes, already half asleep. Jonathan turned off the light and went downstairs slowly. The house was quiet, but it wasn't the empty silence from before. It was a silence full of life, of love, of possibilities. He passed through the living room, where Chloe's drawings were still taped to the wall. He passed through the kitchen, where the table still had 2 mugs from the hot chocolate they drank before leaving. The mansion that was once cold and lifeless was now a real home, full of laughter, of messes, of happy moments, of genuine love. Jonathan sat on the sofa and smiled to himself in the dark. A few months ago, he was a serious, closed-off man, just going through the motions. Now, he was an uncle, an adoptive father, part of a family that had reconnected through a little girl who appeared on a stormy night. Elena was right when she said they would always be together. She was still there, in every one of Chloe's smiles, in every gesture, in every loving word. And for the first time in years, Jonathan slept without fear of tomorrow, because he knew that when he woke up, he would have a reason to smile waiting for him, a small, blonde-haired, blue-eyed reason who brought back his ability to love, his family. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.